Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're really diving into a fascinating story from the world of rugby.
Yeah, one that tells us a lot about resilience, about mental strength.
Exactly. And, what it really means to be indispensable in elite sport. Our mission today is basically to unpack the journey of a top-tier player.
A world-class player.
Right, and see how a positive mindset, a strategic one, can able to turn really tough setbacks into, well, strengths.
Now we're focusing on Springbok lock Eben Etzebeth. We're drawing on a recent piece from Rugby 365. It gives us a pretty unique window, I think, into how even the most, dominant, powerful athletes navigate what can feel like just constant adversity.
It really does. And hey, if you're passionate about this kind of rugby insight, make sure you hit that subscribe button for Rugby Obsession. Seriously, wherever you're listening, just tap subscribe so you don't miss out on these deep dives.
Definitely worth doing.
Okay, so let's get into it. Our source, this Rugby 365 article, it immediately paints quite a picture of Eben Etzebeth, doesn't it?
It does.
He's not just described as, South Africa's most capped Springbok lock ever, which is huge in itself.
Monumental, yeah.
But the article emphasizes he's way more than just brute force.
Yeah, and that's what's really interesting here. The focus is so much on his, game intelligence.
Yeah.
His determination.
Right.
And this ability he has to, inspire everyone around him. He leads by example consistently, not just with, the big tackles everyone sees, but with the smart plays, the tactical side. His presence alone just seems to lift the team.
So it makes him kind of irreplaceable, even at 33.
Absolutely irreplaceable. He goes so far beyond just being physically imposing. It's the complete package, the total influence he has. Think about his line-out calls, reading the opposition.
Yeah.
Even his voice on the pitch,
Yeah.
Even when he's not the official captain. That's the real value.
And we saw that leadership, didn't we, with the Sharks recently?
We did.
The article mentions he captained them in that nail-biter against Munster, the penalty shootout win in the URC quarterfinal.
Thrilling stuff. In Durban, yeah.
And that was just a week before things took a real turn for him personally. Shows his impact right up until he hit his own rough patch.
Exactly.
Okay, so here's where it gets, really interesting, maybe even a bit tough to hear about.
Yeah.
Despite being this icon, this leader, Etzebeth has faced a seriously injury-plagued season. The article details this really challenging period starting late 2024. Sounds like a proper gauntlet.
Oh, it really does. I mean, his struggles kicked off with a pretty significant head injury. That was against Exeter Chiefs back in December.
Right, I remember that.
And that led to months out, several months on the sidelines, dealing with persistent concussion symptoms, which, for a rugby player, that's tough. Really could.
An invisible injury almost.
Exactly. Then, just as he's getting ready to come back, bang, hamstring strain, delays the return again.
Oh, man.
Then, after that, illness forces him to miss the Ulster match. And this was after he'd been named to come back against Edinburgh.
So close, then pulled back again.
Yeah. He did eventually get back on the pitch against the Ospreys in early May.
Okay.
But then he was forced off in the first half, a knee injury this time. Thankfully, that one wasn't too serious in the end.
Still, another setback.
Another one. And then, just before the Sharks' big URC semifinal against the Bulls, another minor issue pops up in training. Had to withdraw again.
Wow.
It was just relentless. One thing after another after another.
That is just an incredible lift of hurdles for any athlete, let alone someone like Etzebeth, who's so crucial, so physical. When you hear all that, you have to wonder, how do you keep going? How do you not just, crumble under that kind of relentless physical challenge? What's the secret there?
Well, this is where his mindset really shines through, and it speaks volumes about mental resilience.
Okay.
The article actually quotes him directly. He says, very firmly, you can look at it in two ways, either negative or positive. I try to look at things in life positively.
Simple, but powerful.
It is. But it's not just like wishful thinking. He genuinely views this forced time off not as just a negative, not as a punishment. He sees it as a strategic opportunity.
It's opportunity. How so?
Well, a chance for his body to actually rest properly, to recover from being, as he puts it, bruised up and battered from playing week in, week out.
Right, the constant grind.
Exactly. So he frames it actively. It's a chance to sort out those little niggling issues he mentions, the shoulder specifically, and basically get his whole body strong again. Almost like using the injury time for prehab, not just rehab.
Rehabilitation. I like that. So it's not just sitting around waiting, it's active. Proactive, even.
Absolutely. He's not just resting passively. He's likely working meticulously on specific muscle groups, addressing those historical weaknesses, maybe even fine-tuning biomechanics, stuff you just don't have time for during a packed season.
Okay.
So he's turning this downtime, this forced inactivity, into a real performance enhancement period. He's assessing it, finding tangible benefits.
And he even brings up family time, doesn't he, as another positive in the mix? He does.
It feels very intentional, this reframing of something that, let's be honest, most people would see as purely negative. He's actively looking for the upside.
That's precisely it. I mean, he's not naive. He acknowledges the downside, not playing, not on the field, not maybe match sharp, as he says.
Sure, yeah.
But then he immediately pivots and emphasizes lots of positives. It's this really conscious, intentional reframing, taking setbacks and turning them into opportunities for recovery, yes, but also for strategic strengthening, even for personal balance. It's a powerful lesson in maybe active perception management.
Perception management,
Sure.
choosing how you see it.
Yeah, deliberately choosing how to interpret and react instead of just letting the circumstances dictate his mood or outlook.
That's fascinating. And look, if you're finding this discussion about mindset in elite sport as interesting as we are, just a reminder, subscribe to Rugby Obsession wherever you get your podcasts so you catch every deep dive.
Good call.
So fast forward a bit. After navigating all those obstacles, the article says Etzebeth is now looking fit, looking healthy.
Yep, described as well-rested. And importantly, looking forward to the Springbok test matches ahead, he's put those past injuries firmly in the past.
Which really shows that his approach, that positive and strategic mindset, it worked.
Seems like it.
Yeah, and if you connect this to the bigger picture, his whole season is just this incredibly powerful case study. In resilience, yes, but also in that strategic long-term view.
How so?
Well, it shows how top athletes, and really anyone facing challenges, professional or personal, can choose to see setbacks differently. Not as roadblocks that just stop you dead,
Right.
but as maybe strategic pauses. Opportunities to use that forced inactivity for active recovery, for dedicated preparation. So you don't just come back healed, you actually come back stronger, more robust for whatever's next.
So it's not just about getting back to where you were.
No, it's about optimizing that recovery period,
Yep.
using it to potentially leapfrog forward. Sometimes, that step back really is needed to propel you further ahead down the line.
That's a really insightful way to put it. So thinking about Etzebeth's approach, what really stands out to you personally and for everyone listening, how do you try to maintain positivity or find those strategic upsides when you face adversity, whether it's at work or just, life stuff? We genuinely love to hear your thoughts on this kind of mindset. Does it resonate?
Yeah, definitely curious to hear listeners' perspectives.
So wrapping up this deep dive on Eben Etzebeth's season, it truly hammered home for me that even when you're dealing with significant physical blows one after another, that positive strategic mindset can genuinely transform an injury nightmare into a period of, intentional growth, rejuvenation even.
It really is about how you frame the challenge, isn't it? That seems to make all the difference in turning a setback into a stepping stone.
Absolutely.
So maybe the provocative thought for everyone listening is this. How can we actively look for the positives, like Etzebeth did, in our own setbacks, those niggling issues, big or small, in our work or personal lives? How can we turn what feels like forced downtime or recovery into a period of real, intentional preparation? Getting ready for future strength, future success. It's about seeking out the opportunity within every challenge, maybe especially the ones we didn't choose.
Finding opportunity in challenges. That's a great thought to leave people with. We really encourage you to share your comments, your thoughts on what struck you most about this, or maybe how you apply similar ideas yourself. We always enjoy hearing how these discussions land with you.
We do.
And one last time, for even more deep dives into the brilliant, complex world of rugby, make sure you are subscribed to Rugby Obsession wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't miss out.
Thank you so much for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive today. We really appreciate you tuning in, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.